Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks very much for coming to Meet the Controllers ITV digital channels. Peter Fincham is here, Director of Television for ITV. You might have seen him through the keyhole with his grand piano and boys' room. And also here we have Paul Mortimer, who's Controller of Digital Channels. We're going to be talking about ITV's digital strategy, the launch of 2 new channels and extending ITV2 as well, and putting more into that throughout the session. You will get your chance to ask questions at the end, so we'll leave a decent amount of time for that, so do think of them. As they occur to you during the session, you'll also be able to tweet and ask either of them a question on the app. So just download the app if you haven't already and see if you can ask a question there, and I'll just weave them through the session. So first, I want to ask you, Peter, about extending the ITV digital family. 2 new channels, and also putting a bit more emphasis on ITV2 and really pushing that to a young audience. Is there change in that strategy, and why so?
Well, I think it's a kind of evolution. We actually hadn't started a channel for about a decade. You know, the digital family of digital channels that we had, you know, ITV2, ITV3, ITV4, and CITV, they go back, you know, pretty much 10 years. So this wasn't a rush of blood to the head. This was quite a carefully considered kind of expansion of the family. And we wanted to expand it in 2 different directions. And they're different in terms of the kind of editorial proposition. They couldn't be more different. ITV Encore being a kind of, you know, upmarket drama channel, and ITVB being a sort of fun reality channel. And also that they're different in kind. ITV Encore's a pay channel on Sky, whereas B is a free channel. So it's been quite a carefully considered and rather balanced thing to do. We also wanted to reposition ITV2, take ITV2 a bit younger, make it more naturally home for comedy and some of the kind of really fun stuff that's on ITV2. So you know, it makes sense to us, and we come out of it, we hope. We've launched 1, Encore, we haven't yet launched B, but it's imminent, with a broader-based family of channels, catering to different audiences for different reasons. And you know, the most important thing for us is to get them right and make them channels that people want to watch. And you know, our portfolio of channels, if you include the main channel, has had a very successful few years. And you know, I think it's fair to say it's been the best performing family of channels in recent years. Well, we want to continue that and build on it.
And we'll talk about the channels in more detail in just a bit. But Paul, just looking at a launch of 2 linear channels at a time when people are perhaps going to iPlayer, looking at Netflix, in other words, scheduling their own television, why would they still, especially young people, want to be told what to watch and when?
It's true, and we ask ourselves that question time and time again, and still we deliver big audiences to very good shows amongst young adults. We do it on ITV2, E4 is still doing it, some of our other rivals, competitors are doing it, BBC Three are very strong for young audiences.
But they've gone online, of course.
They're maybe going online. It's interesting that we're launching new channels, and maybe they're retracting slightly in that territory. But I think it's part of starting, especially with young people and especially with social media. I think a lot of what we do in that kind of Twitter and social media world is we take Towie, for example, the Anyways Essex. We kind of start the conversation Sunday nights at 10 o'clock, Wednesday nights at 10 o'clock. It's an ongoing dialogue, and it plays out across the week. And it plays out on Twitter, and people choose to come in and watch it in order to have a comment in social media. And then they need to catch up before the next episode. And I think when you get the right mix of programming, I think there are still appointments to view for young people as there are for all people. But I certainly think there's a trend editorially in terms of what we're programming now. And live television is best, and event television is preferable. So I think there is a slight shift there, because it needs to be shouty, it needs to be noisy, and we need people to care enough to want to come in at the time that we're dictating is the best time for them to see it.
So shouty, noisy and young, and that's the sort of marketplace which is quite crowded, I suppose. Your background was E4, and they've got quite a decent chunk of that market that you're looking at. BBC Three, decision to take it online, and ITV2 as well. It all seems to be crowding around the same area. Is there enough to go around?
I think there seemingly is enough to go around. I mean, we'll see when we launch our other channel, which is also aiming for a slightly different, younger audience. But I think ITV2 is the top channel across all of digital. E4 happens to be the #1 channel for 16 to 34s, and we're going after them, I hope, a bit more aggressively with what we're about to do on ITV2. So I think there's still scope. We're still very profitable. I mean, the reason we've got the confidence as a business to launch new channels is because we're creatively in very good health, but also commercially, we've got the wherewithal to fund these. The new channels that we're launching, we're not doing it on a shoestring. They're properly funded. Producers will be pleased to learn. They're properly funded channels in which we'll pay the going rate for the type of content that we're looking for.
What is the going rate?
We're not allowed to speak about tariffs, but
broadly,
but
you can't give broad average of cost per hour on
if you're an
ITV2.
independent producer and you supply to ITV2, you can assume that if you're doing a similar type of show for any of our other channels, we'd be paying about the same rate.
Digital channels.
Yeah, and that's about the same as,
terrestrial.
you know, I'm very across what E4 pays for content, and we're all in the same area.
It's not very different from terrestrial. You know, if you
Is it
watch,
not?
No, not really. If you watch a sitcom on ITV2 like Plebs, which is, you know, in terms of production, but it's shot in Bulgaria on, you know, it's kind of quite a, you know, it has sort of chariot races and things and kind of cast of thousands. You know, there's no way of doing that on the cheap. You have to fully fund it and fund it really well. And it wouldn't be that different on ITV main channel.
Well, let's look at ITV2 and what you'd like from ITV2 is to give the audience surprise, tongue firmly in your cheek, broad, young shows. Where do you see that? Where is it that the broad, young, tongue firmly in your cheek surprise shows?
Well, it's primarily in comedy and entertainment, and we'll be doing a lot more of that on ITV2, which I dare say we'll talk about in due course. But I think in terms of the channel-defining show, if that's what you're teeing up, which is, I hope, a clip of Celebrity Juice,
There's a man who works in television.
is we look at Celeb Juice, which has been on air for a good long while, and it's been one of our top 2 shows for almost ever, that and Towie, a real standout raters for ITV2. So I think with Celebrity Juice, we love it. It's the rudest show on television, for a start, which is something else that we feel slightly weird that we're getting away with under the ITV umbrella. But it's also got a very warm heart. And we talk a lot to producers when we're talking about entertainment.
Should we have a quick look at it?
Sure, absolutely.
And then we can talk a bit more about it.
Oh, I've gone off Keith Lemon.
I'm not surprised. It is very good, which is why it's in its 11th series. Exactly. 60% of the audience over 35. Is that good enough for your channel-defining show?
You know, it's interesting because one thing we can't be, because we'd sacrifice volume if we were, is we can't be a youth channel. We can't be a channel specifically aimed at teenagers. I think that's really important.
But you say it's the home of entertainment for young people. That sounds like it's specifically driving towards a young market.
And if you compare Celebrity Juice's profile in audience terms to other comedy, it's a very young comedy. It's interesting how even E4, which is perceived to be the youngest, I guess, channel in the same landscape that we operate, the average age is 36. The average age of the audience is 36. The average age on ITV2 is about 40. It's just the nature of the way viewers come into television, and what we don't do is we don't put a no entry sign up to anybody for any of our channels. If you know, we think about what our young offer is going to be, what our female offer is going to be, what our male offer is going to be, but we certainly don't say if you're a girl you can't watch ITV4, and if you're a bloke you shouldn't be watching ITVB, which is primarily a channel for women. So I think that gets it right. I think Celebrity Juice gets it right. Clearly it does, because we're on to the 11th season. And I think what we are trying to do when we talk to producers is get them to understand a little bit about what it is in essence that Celebrity Juice offers, more than it just being a panel show really, that you can feed into your scripted comedy or your panel show or your other entertainment piece. And I just need to say as well, otherwise I will forget and press will tell me off. But Keith Lemon, Lee Francis, is so good on Celebrity Juice that we're doing another project with him for next year, which is the Keith Lemon sketch show. And of course that will bring a lot of the zany nonsense that you get every week in the panel show into a scripted comedy sketch show, which is very exciting for us for next year.
Do you ever, I mean, I know, Peter, a couple of years ago you said that digital channels aren't nursery slopes for the terrestrial channels, but is there a move? I read just a year ago that he was going to move to ITV1. There was going to be a show for him.
But he
Do
has
you
a show
tend to
on
have
ITV.
stars and ITV2
I don't think you should write any rules about this. I mean, we do Through the Keyhole on the main channel with Keith Lemon, and that works incredibly well. Although I think you'd probably say he's primarily an ITV2 talent, but Through the Keyhole's a great thing for the main channel. It's back very soon. But fun enough, we've had traffic in the other direction. We did a sitcom last year called The Job Lot from a Big Talk on the main channel, and that's coming back in a second series, rather different, and aimed a bit younger and a bit ruder, I suppose, to ITV2 this autumn. So I don't think it's the relationship with the channels on ITV is not the same as it is at the BBC. You don't have, as you do with BBC Two, a channel that's in many ways very similar to BBC One in terms of the kind of demographic profile of its audience, where a show like The Bake Off or Who Do You Think You Are, The Apprentice or whatever can be incubated, if you like, on BBC Two and moved seamlessly to BBC One. That's a fantastic thing to have, but that's ITV's channel family doesn't work that way. But then our budgets aren't the same.
Yeah, it was more that sort of hit that talk was that he was going to do a much more zanier, something like he was doing on ITV2, but on ITV1 instead, but that differentiation is quite clear in your mind, is it? ITV2 and ITV1.
Oh,
and
yes, I think so. Although somebody like him can straddle both, but I don't think they're going to drift closer together. I think with ITV2 going younger and more in search of kind of a younger comedy, with the creation of ITVB, I don't think it'll drift closer to ITV main channel.
I think for talent, there's a nursery slope in some of our digital channels. If you look at someone like Stephen Mulhern, who's now very much a face of the main channel on ITV, he started off in kids telly on CITV and came up through ITV2. He still does Britain's Got More Talent for us, but he's got 3 or 4 shows on the big network now. And I think for talent, there's that leap across. But in terms of what we might order in programming terms, there is quite a void, as Peter suggests, between ITV2, for example, and ITV. I don't think there is that with some other networks where E4 might be very close to Channel 4, actually. Let's
look at original content, because some of the people here will be wanting to know what the sorts of shows that they can pitch to you on ITV2. You've got the staples. You've got, as we've seen, Celebrity Juice and Towie and Extra Factor, and then, although Towie's moving, but also the switchover shows like Extra Factor, which ITV say are a perfect opportunity to carry audience over, and they are a lot of slots throughout the year taken up by these terrific shows. It says, does that mean that original content is harder to get commissioned because you have got these blocks of programs that have been there for quite some time and are very popular, as well as those sort of feeder shows that come from the ITV1 content? How much original content is there to bid for?
There's lots, and there'll be more going forward. I think all of the things you highlighted there are very fundamental to what we do on ITV2, and they are the kind of anchor points, I guess, across the schedule. Why there will be more opportunity is, for example, The Anyways Essex, which is a very big show for us. From next autumn, that will migrate across. That's 27 hours, and all the money that 27 hours, the money we spend on that will be released back to ITV2 to spend on other projects. Now, we're not going to blindly go and commission a 27-part new thing from anybody. We'll probably order 4 or 5 different shorter form series, and 1 or 2 of them will fly, and they'll come back and return, and we'll grow out from there. But apart from that, we've done an awful lot. We do... I should have the figure, and I don't, but we probably have about 25 original commissions a year on ITV2, including the ones you've mentioned. But given that you mentioned about half a dozen, there's clearly an awful lot of scope outside of that, and that will continue.
Is it possible to say how many hours ITV2 has that can be
I haven't got that figure at the top on the top of my head. I can tell you that with launching the new channels, there'll be about 120 brand new hours of new original content needed across the piece, across ITV2 and ITVB, and a little bit in terms of drama on ITV Encore. But there will be some more on top of that, because there'll be things on ITV2 or some of our other channels that we do currently that we decommission for whatever reason or have come to a natural end. So there's lots of opportunity for commissioning across the piece.
Let's look at the sorts of things that you might commission, and Peter mentioned comedy, and we'll go on to that in just a bit. But in terms of entertainment, are you pleased with the panel shows on ITV2 at the moment, Viral Tap, TV, OD? Are they getting the figures that you were looking for?
I think creatively and editorially, I think they're great. I think they're both slight departures for us. TVOD was a wonderful show, and Matt Edmondson is a brilliant talent who's done 2 or 3 different things for ITV2, and we'd love to hold on to him. We've not made a decision on either show as to whether or not they would come back, because it's a little bit too soon. And Viral Tap was slightly experimental in that we were engaging the audience via an application to submit content for the programme. So it was a kind of exchange of two-way exchange of information. It was well produced, it looked great, but in truth, no, they didn't rate as well as we would have expected. And
so April, June, 311,000 and a 1.6% share for Viral Tap, and TV OD, June, July, 168,000, 0.8% share. What would you be hoping for?
Well, for a brand new series in those slots, we'd be hoping for closer to 400,000, something like that. Right. So they fell a bit short of that.
So but why is it so difficult? Why is it such a tough nut to crack, panel shows?
Panel shows are really weird because once they're up, they look quite easy. And you think, gosh, they look as if they can go on making themselves. And I've been involved in panel shows for donkey's years. But you have to keep trying them out. And then you find one. And when you do find one, whether it's League of Their Own at Sky or whether it's 8 out of 10 Cats at Channel 4, they become real anchors to the schedule. They're brilliant, but there's a particular kind of capturing lightning in a bottle in a particular way with the panel show. It's got to have a good format, a good kind of theme and identity, and it brings together talent in a way that somehow clicks. They're so important. You've got to keep trying them, but you don't expect them all to work straight out of the box, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. We're going to see your second clip here. Now, this was your what was I thinking moment when we asked for your what was I thinking moment. Let's have a look. Why was that your what was I thinking moment, Peter?
Well, it's bonkers. It's completely bonkers.
Somebody said it was Blair Witch Project meets Generation Game.
That's a great description. I think we'd buy that. I like that. I mean, Paul should talk to it because, this is very much an ITV2 commission, and it's really brilliantly made. And you talk.
Yeah, it was for Halloween, wasn't it?
It was originally a pilot, backdoor pilot. We played it at Halloween, where it was obviously most appropriate. It did very well for us. We've commissioned a series, which will be coming in the autumn. Why it's our, I can't believe we did this moment or whatever it is we're talking about here, was I remember Kate Madigan, who's sitting in the front row, who's our wonderful commissioning editor in entertainment, and I had the first pitch from Gogglebox Entertainment, the producers, and I just thought they were lunatics. They had come in, it was a really great pitch, I think it was PowerPoint and there'd lots of graphics and all the rest of it. And effectively, the premise of the show is, it's a physical game show. You go through a few spooky challenges to win money via a key or a talisman or something. And then once you've got the money, the 3 red backpacks that you saw there, you put the money in the backpack and you literally run from the hounds. You literally have to scarper from some dogs that are chasing you. And if you manage to climb over the wall with the money in the rucksack, you can keep it. If you don't manage to escape the dogs, well, we just never see you again. So we did
what
one.
Was the health and safety?
Well,
of that?
exactly.
Yeah, the caption comes up at the end saying, "No animals were harmed in the making of this programme." Well, of course they were, but people were ripped from limb to limb. They couldn't climb over the fence.
Did you really think it was risky? I mean, the fact that you've commissioned it for a second series, as you say, it did terrifically well at the time.
Yes, but I think it was a leap of faith.
Was it risky, really?
Well, yes. Do you know what? It was interesting because I think like a lot of commissioners, controllers, I sit watching programmes go out with Twitter open and I'm reading the response, the immediate response to it. And one of the things I was reading was how it was too scary for some people and they literally couldn't watch. Now, whether they were actually turning off or not, I don't know. But there's a level to which you can go without crossing a line and still maintain a degree of mainstream entertainment. For the masses, and I think we're very close to it, and we're having a little bit of trouble, dare I say it, Kate, with compliance on the next series because it's even scarier. So Kate will be in the edit suite making a few snips, I think.
I can't imagine anyone putting themselves forward for that.
Well, the thing is, they don't know what they're getting themselves into.
Even better.
They answer a newspaper ad that says, "Would you like to win some money on an ITV2 game show?"
Okay, all right, yeah. So there are some things that you read on paper thinking this is risky, this will never work. Goodness knows what's going to happen when we release the dogs. And there are other things which on paper you think, oh, that'll really rate, and then they don't. I mean, I don't know whether you, I don't know. I Want to Marry Harry is one that springs to mind for me, which on paper looked like it was going to be terrifically successful. Then you have all these gullible American women and they think they're going to marry Prince Harry, and it turns out they're not.
I think it was
Do you?
relatively successful. It was an acquisition, so we didn't have to pay lots of money to produce it because it was a fantastic production with quite a lot of expense, courtesy of the American network that commissioned it, and it didn't work on the American network.
No, Fox dropped it, didn't they,
Exactly.
halfway through?
We played it out, and it did very well. I mean, it did certainly better than a couple of the figures you mentioned earlier for some of our
Well, it started
other
about
pieces.
300,000, then it hovered around 200,000, and then the final episode got about, nearly 580,000, I think.
Yeah.
For
Those
the
overnight
last.
figures, though, you have to consolidate figures, and I suspect that, I don't know, Paul, you'd know.
Well, it's also the overnights are interesting, but we shouldn't be slaves to overnights anymore because, especially as you said, younger people are choosing to catch up on their own terms, and there's quite on ITV2, as for most young networks, there's quite a bit of catch up happens. The other thing about I Want to Marry Harry, at the time it was on, it was possibly our second youngest programme in terms of profile. So addressing this issue of just how young is Celebrity Juice, well, it's pretty young, but older people will come in as well. We found with I Want to Marry Harry that it played very well to a younger female demographic in particular. So we were very happy with the young demos on that show. And it wasn't a big risk because it wasn't a huge investment. It was just a nice little thing. It came our way in the summer, and we thought it was a bit of fun.
So sometimes demographics are more important than audience and share, just the people you're capturing rather than how many you're capturing.
Well, as a commercial broadcaster, we advertisers come into ITV2 to buy 16 to 34-year-olds. Yep. So we need to deliver programs that skew in favour of 16 to 34s. That's core to our business.
Okay, so I'm going to play another clip, and this is the show you've chosen as the one you're most excited about, which might appeal to that demographic. It's called Bad Bridesmaids. Here we go. So just so I'm clear on this, the bride agrees to an interloper to come on the hen weekend.
Exactly.
Yeah, and nobody else knows but
Nobody
those two.
else knows what's in it for the bride is on the hen weekend if she can convince the other hens that this is actually a long-lost friend who's going to be part of the bridal party, is that she will get her luxury honeymoon paid for. But what it is actually, it's an interesting exercise, a portrait, if you like, of female friendship. And that's what you get from the people that are in the dark, i.e. the other hens. But why we're most looking forward to it is, apart from it is actually a great format, is it's got some really strong comedy performances at the heart of it. So it's a comedy show. It's not. It's nothing but a comedy show. It happens to be set in a world that's very familiar to our audience, so they will relate with it. And the girls, we've got a number of different girls that play the bad bridesmaid each week. Obviously in character, and they can't really break character for 48 hours, so it's a kind of marathon improv session as far as they're concerned. But there's some amazing comedy talent there, like Anna Morris and London Hughes, just a couple of new people to mainstream television, and we're really proud of that.
It has echoes of BBC Three and Don't Tell the Bride, and I wonder with BBC Three going online whether part of ITV2's strategy is to capture perhaps a lot of what they had. Is that the case?
Well, it's funny, you were saying this market is crowded because you've got E4, ITV2 and BBC Three. I don't think that is particularly crowded, actually. And if BBC Three go online, which is a proposal, I don't know if it's confirmed yet, then in a sense ITV2 and E4 are two channels going after a similar audience. But it's a very valuable audience. It's a very commercially valuable audience for obvious reasons. So we're really happy if we're well placed. And our message to talent and to suppliers and producers is ITV2 is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And you alluded to this, and this is obviously an issue about the way we all watch television, that we're all starting to watch television in different ways on tablets and mobile and at different times. But why are we in the channels business? We're in the channels business because people like channels, and they like seeing something at 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night or 10 o'clock on a Thursday night. It will take its place alongside people who series stack things or do catch-up TV or time shift or whatever. They're all perfectly legitimate ways to watch things, but it would be, in my opinion, quite wrong to think that the one simply replaces the other, and therefore there's no no role left for channels. I've been hearing this for donkey's years. I remember hearing this when I joined the BBC, which is pretty much 10 years ago now. People said, channels, they're going to pass into history. Well, oddly, they haven't passed into history. People like channels and they like schedules, and it partly, of course, because it creates the kind of social dimension of television, of the water cooler moment. Did you see that last night?
So you ask yourself then why that youth market is so small. I mean, even if we talk about E4 and ITV2 and BBC3, you're still talking about very small percentage shares of the 16 to 34-year-olds. So, you're talking about 4-ish% for E4, you're talking about 3-ish% for BBC3. I mean, these are tiny, tiny proportions.
They are, but in commercial terms, they're very lucrative. We can monetize it very well. But I think also it's not that the bigger channels aren't also chasing a younger audience. I mean, the biggest young show on television is The X Factor, which is obviously on the main channel. So I think that we've got to cut our cloth accordingly, I suppose, in terms of the resource we put towards harnessing the audiences that we need to deliver to advertisers, as well as deliver into people's living rooms or tablets in order to enjoy it. I think that the youth TV or the young adult television market is actually in really good health. I think there's a lot of really good creativity going on there, not least at BBC3 and certainly at ITV2 and D4. So, I say thank God for them.
But if around 90% of that market aren't watching those 3 channels, where are they? What are they watching?
Well, they're watching the 250 other options that they've got, I suppose.
But is there are they going to a certain place? Are they all watching on YouTube? Are they watching catch-up stuff? I mean, where is the market?
All that. I mean, there's no point. I don't think you'll succeed, as a broadcaster if you want to deny the reality of the way that people behave or people view television. You want to sort of get with it, if you like, and then it remains, as Paul says, a very good place to be and a very important place to be, which is exactly why we're, both launching ITV-B and taking ITV2 a bit younger, and if you like, strengthening its appeal to younger audiences. That's exactly the strategy.
A question on the app: do you feel making ITV2 younger and going down the comedy route is to capitalise on the closure of BBC3?
Going down the comedy route, did you say?
Yeah. Do you feel making it younger and going down comedy route is to capitalise on?
Do you know, we were working on this strategy, and it was pretty much formulated, and we pretty much decided to launch these channels before we ever heard about this BBC. The BBC3 announcement is one of those announcements that I think it's fair to say took everybody by surprise. Nobody saw it coming at all. I was amazed. I remember hearing about it about a day earlier from a BBC presenter who's a friend of mine who said, about tomorrow they're going to announce that they're going to go online with BBC3. And I said, they'll never do that. You've just heard a false rumour because it appeals to young viewers, and that's very important for the licence fee. That's the least likely thing the BBC would probably do. It shows what I know. The very next day, that is what they announced. But I don't think anybody had seen that coming. So, no, we didn't develop our new digital channel strategy in response to that at all.
Do you think they're wrong?
Well, do you know what? I don't think it's for us to sit here and opine about the BBC and the rights and wrongs.
Could that be the future?
No, but
putting channels online like that?
Well, it's a slightly different question. But that is an issue for the BBC, and it's just one for them to decide.
With, though, I suppose perhaps some of those comedians who had programmes on BBC3 when it was a channel, now perhaps not getting what they want. Do you expect them to be knocking on your door?
Well, look, audiences like channels, and so talent likes channels because it's a platform and it gets you on telly, and so we don't mind whether they're former BBC3 people or former anybody or never been on any channel at all, or we commission programs that have got their roots in the online experience, in YouTube and so on. That's fine. We're agnostic about this. We should be completely agnostic about it. It doesn't matter where anybody's come from. It's are they right for ITV2 and for ITV2's audience, and hopefully success breeds success. If it remains a successful channel, people will want to be on it, and if the right people, we select the right people, and work with the right people to be on it, then we'll have keep the audience and keep the momentum of the channel.
Josh Widdicombe hasn't phoned you up and said, Peter, I'm now not going to get anything on BBC Three.
He might have phoned Paul. He hasn't phoned
Jack
me.
Whitehall.
Well, interestingly,
Jack Whitehall's about to do something on the main channel.
Jack
And
is
he's
in one of our comedies.
Yeah,
he's in
next year on
Cockroaches.
ITV2,
So.
yeah.
We're going to play another clip. This is something you mentioned earlier, which is Plebs, which is set in Rome. And let's have a look and then we can talk about it afterwards. So that's one RTS, British Comedy Award. There's been a BAFTA nomination. It got very good audiences. Why is it your riskiest moment, which is what we asked you for that particular clip?
Well, in hindsight, it doesn't feel like it was risky, but at the time at which we commissioned it, and obviously it's coming back for a second season this autumn, so it was probably nearly 2 years ago that it first got the green light. I think we felt that, as Peter alluded, it was not inexpensive. It is shot in Bulgaria. There is a cast of thousands in some of the Colosseum scenes, etc. It was new writers to television. It was a company that we'd not worked with before. It's set in ancient Rome, 27 BC to be precise. And we didn't have a reputation in comedy, and we were very keen. And slightly to answer your point earlier about is the BBC Three thing driving us into comedy? No, it's not. This was the start 2 years ago of a push into scripted comedy. To that end, that's why it was a risk, because we didn't really have anything on the channel like that. We'd had a bit before our time on ITV2, but there seemed to be a bit of a lull in terms of scripted comedy. And as I said, we've got 3 coming up, including The Job Lot and Plebs. Cockroaches, which is the piece that Jack Whitehall features in, is next year, and a few in development, one of which will probably hit next year as well. So we probably have 4 sitcoms in the next year, which is up from 0 2 years ago. So the risk paid off, in my opinion.
So are you looking for any more, or is that you done at the moment for comedy?
We're always
still
actively commissioning. Yeah.
But I can remember Angela Jane coming to me and saying, "Look, we've got this sitcom, and we haven't done a sitcom for quite a while. It's set in ancient Rome. Are we completely mad?" And of course, it felt like an enormous risk. So anything that once it's a hit, it doesn't look like a risk in hindsight. It's sort of like saying, wasn't it obvious all along that Downton Abbey was going to work? No, it wasn't at all. But once it has worked, then you think, oh, that wasn't a very risky commission, was it? So not my risk, Paul and Angela's risk, and our colleagues in comedy commissioning. But yeah, that was a really risky commission. It could have gone completely tits up.
We've talked about comedy, we've talked about entertainment. I wonder how important drama is for ITV2. Are you commissioning that too?
We're looking for drama, and I think we're a bit behind the curve on drama. Part of what we want to do with the new ITV2 is be stronger certainly in comedy and entertainment, but in scripted generally. And at the moment, we don't have an original UK scripted drama for young audiences on ITV2. We've got a lot in development at the moment. We've got 4 or 5 scripts in development. Out of that, 1 or maybe 2 pieces will emerge, and that will be really helpful in terms of the mix of programming. Because I think oftentimes a drama can define your channel, not least in the way that things like Downton do and Broadchurch do on the main channel.
One of the first channel-defining shows on ITV2 arguably was Diary of a Secret Call Girl, which we got huge audiences with Billy Piper, but it's really hard to find the right drama for ITV2. So,
the director of drama said you can afford to be laddish when you're putting forward drama proposals. What did you mean by afford to be laddish? Does that mean that ITV2 is going to be a bit more blokey?
Well, I think it will be more male because the things we're doing around the channel in terms of the programme mix mean that a lot of the things that were very female in profile are moving to the new channel. And what we want to do to grow the channel with comedy and other scripted is encourage more men to come in. Plebs is a really good example. Celeb Juice is the best example of a very mixed economy in terms of the profile. It's about 50-50, male and female. Plebs is more male than most anything else we do. And these are shows that have big audiences attached. We don't want to, as I said at the top, we don't want to be a no-go area for men. And I think we've garnered ourselves a bit of a reputation on ITV2 as being that place where celebrity access docs play. It's a bit feminine, it's a bit girly. And that's not necessarily what we want to be, because for half of the time anyway, right now, we're not doing that. And I think Steve November, who said that you can afford to be blokey, I think he was thinking don't think that something like Misfits, which was a hit on E4, don't think that something like that can't be pitched to ITV2, because it can, and it could very well be commissioned in the new order.
So ITV2, a bit more blokey and laddie.
Not so much laddie. No, I don't think we're saying
What's
laddie
the difference
particularly.
between laddish and
Well,
bladish?
laddish implies a level of, I don't know, a puerile kind of sentiment to some of the things that we do, and there might be a tinge of that. But I don't want, what we don't want is, I don't want any producers in the room just changing their script to, to have boys being sick in toilets and whatever else is that kind, is laddish behaviour.
But I wonder, by saying, you say you don't want to put up no entry signs,
yeah.
But by using that terminology, and I suppose with ITVB as well, and describing it as for intelligent young mums, aren't you automatically then putting up no entry signs to those who don't fit any of those categories? Why would they try the channel?
Well, it's interesting. I don't think we are externally communicating the channels in that way. When you see the creative work that we've got in terms of interstitials and idents for ITVB, which are really gorgeous, lovely pieces of work, when in none of that is it saying this is not a place where men are welcome. But what we do know about ITVB is that the kind of content that we're putting over there, and we're putting it over there for a reason, because we want to contain it in a space where we're very consistent in terms of the offer in order to generate loyalty. And we'll generate loyalty amongst largely younger women between about 25 and 45, many of whom will be young mums, some of whom won't be, but people who want to watch that kind of programme primarily. Men watch it too. About 20% of the audience to something like Real Housewives, which is one of the franchises we're moving over, will be men. But primarily, it's where women will go if they're choosing that channel to be one of the 7 channels that they can manage in their head that they will default to when they're looking for entertainment.
Do you think people think of themselves like that? I am in this category, therefore that channel is for me.
No, I don't think they do. And I don't think any of us view television like that. But I think it's, I just think it's an easy way, especially in commercial television, of talking to your advertisers who actually do see the world very much in those terms. And, we haven't announced the channel sponsor yet, so I won't do it here, but we've got a really good brand that's sponsoring the new channel. And they're doing it because it was very clear who we were targeting, and it's a brand that has a good deal of affinity with that audience, and they're also looking to target them with their product.
Why is it called ITVB?
Why not?
Do you want to see the long list of names we might have called it? No, it's, God, I don't know.
But one of the things we didn't want to do, and
what I mean is, I'm going to give you a serious answer. We didn't want to keep going down the numbers route and going up with ITV 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and so on. We thought it would be good. This is also true of ITV Encore to move towards a mixture of kind of numbers and names. And we did what you do. You come up with a long list of things, and then you kind of whittle it down a bit, and the marketing guys get involved a bit.
Lifetime's
and they
gone,
test a few
gone.
things, and you end
gone.
up, and they sort of percolate around for a bit, and eventually, in both cases, ITV Encore emerged as the strongest title for the drama channel, and ITVB, which is kind of turns into Behave or Be. There's all sorts of little marketing variations on it. They felt like the right title for this new channel, and fun enough, we've got so used to it now that we don't sort of think to ourselves, why is it called ITVB? And I think the audience will get used to it. It's a very flexible title, and I think it'll be a good name for the channel.
An apt question, does the launch of ITVB make ITV2 redundant?
No, not at all. No.
Quite the opposite. The interesting thing for us is the difference between the two channels. There will be a marked difference. One of them is going to have a lot more comedy on it, a lot more scripted content on it. It's largely entertainment, formatted entertainment. The other one is very much led and anchored by the Only Way is Essex. It's very much about lifestyle and entertainment, narratives for younger people, largely for younger women, as we keep saying. And it will be the place where some of the content from ITV2 is moving over. Some of the content that is maybe on hiatus at the moment, things like the Peter Andre show, which has played very successfully on ITV2, If we were to do something else with Peter in that vein, we'd do it on ITVB. What we've done is we understand that within 16 to 34s, the Barb category that we all become obsessed with if we're looking after younger channels. Within that, there's an awful lot of difference, an awful lot of nuance. And all we're doing is just putting a bit of space between two channels in order to grow our footprint as a broadcaster with a larger family of networks.
Peter Andre does very well. Other sort of talent-driven shows, Mark Wright, Tom Daly, have performed not so well. Tom Daly Goes Global hasn't been recommissioned. Do you think people are just getting a bit bored of the talent-driven formula?
I'm not sure that they are, and I don't think...
Or is it just this was the wrong talent?
Yeah, well, it's not that Tom Daly's not been recommissioned. This was a one-off piece in Tom's gap year in between winning gold medals. He's not in the business yet of being a round-the-clock TV star, although he's a great personality and is a very good fit with our audience. So I'm not sure that we've kind of over-egged that kind of celebrity access pudding yet.
But Mark Wright has not perhaps performed as well as you
No,
might
I think
hope.
the trick is finding the right format, because Mark is a very nice guy, a very good talent with a big fan base, and we really like him and we think he's a great fit for ITV2. And we'd work with him again, and maybe we'll work with him again on another project. But maybe the last one that we did with him wasn't the right thing.
The Party Right Round the World.
That's right, yeah.
That got about 350,000. His other Hollywood Nights got 600 to 700,000, I think. Is that more the kind of audience that you're looking for, or
yes,
actually would
you know, when we do over 500,000 with a brand new show, and if it's got a largely younger demographic coming into it, then we're more than happy.
Yeah.
Well, as we did with the Joey Essex show that we did, we're doing more with Joey Essex, and he's a great personality who's come out of Towie.
Talent-led formats, says one app question, need big names and strong formats. Why Louisa Zisman and Blue running a bar in Ibiza? Are you scraping the barrel?
No, I don't think we're scraping the barrel. I think it's a fun idea. I think it came to us because of the relationship that had occurred between Louisa and one of the boys from Blue from having been in Big Brother. She is, I guess her persona is that of a bit of a bossy nightmare. We quite like that in terms of the narrative that we'll get out of that series. It's a fun thing to do. We think it's a relatively bright and breezy thing. We're not. You know, it's not the only thing that we're doing, but it's a good idea. It's a good format. It came fully formed, and we're moving into production with it, and it will be, I hope, as successful as most anything else we do in that field.
Can I ask how people here might pitch an idea to you in terms of original content? What would they do? Who would they?
There's a number of options. We have teams of genre teams. So the entertainment team for ITV2 is a good place to start. We have a new comedy commissioner within entertainment as well, if you've got a scripted comedy idea. You can also pitch it to myself or to Angela Jane, if you like, and we'll all get together and everything gets put in a room. We go through all of the treatments and the pitches. Sometimes we invite people in off the back of that. And that's how TV's made.
ITV commissioning is very lean. It's got, our total size of our commissioning team is quite substantially smaller than our immediate rivals. Very unbureaucratic, very straightforward. So, and I hope that the access is really good. There's a session tomorrow about commissioning, and they've, as was done last year, they've done again a sort of survey of producers and suppliers to say, what do you think of the different broadcasters? And I hope ITV will come out of that very well. I think we did last year, and we generally do. And I think that's partly because we know that producers have a choice. They can go anywhere they like with their ideas. There are people out there who think, well, I'm not sure ITV's quite a surprising place for me to take things. We don't want people to think that. We want to think it's a really natural home to take things, and we hope that our commissioning process is quite a lean and straightforward one.
Quite a few people have been saying, I've got to do this now because I won't be able to see them properly. You have very little original content. What proportion of programming is available for indies to pitch into?
We have very little original content. I think
you
we've
have
got-
very little original content. I mean, we
I think
just
by
had a
reg-
look at ITV2 for
digital
for a
channel
week.
standards, we have a lot, I think. So,
Yeah.
Well,
I
but-
think we're quite prolific in terms of what we commission from UK indies across ITV2 and some of our other digital channels as well.
When we had a look at a week recently, actually, a week in July, there was about 12% original content.
Yeah, not the best
across
time
the
to
week.
look the summer.
Okay. Well, what is it normally?
uh,
If summer's not a good time to look and it's about 12%, what would you say would be normally original content as a percentage?
Well, original content in terms of the schedule is you probably find about 33% of it is probably original. That's not always brand new. It might be repeats of original content. But I think if you measure the level of commissioning on ITV2 versus the level of commissioning on E4, for example, I think you'll find that we probably are outperforming them at the moment. But I mean, what I would say about the summer and the World Cup and all the rest of it is that we tactically decided to step back slightly. Certainly because with the World Cup it was as much ITV's turn, the main channel with all that great football. And we're having a bit of, well, not a bit, we've got quite a big off-air initiative in terms of marketing ITV2 in September. And so we've got a very strong autumn. So we've held a little bit back. So I wish we were talking in November and you were looking back to October and you'd say, wow, how many new shows have you just launched? Because that's autumn on ITV2.
And that's for ITV2 and also for ITVB, so you'll be commissioning new stuff for that. And we've talked about the sorts of entertainment formats that you want, or anything else that you're looking for ITVB.
Well, for ITVB, it's interesting. I've talked about some of the things that we'll be moving over. TOWIE is the obvious example. Some of our US acquisitions, the Real Housewives franchise is moving, Millionaire Matchmaker, which is a great dating show, is moving over. We've announced some commissions already. We've announced Dinner Date with some celebrity versions of Dinner Date, which is pitched a bit younger than the older version. Celebrity Access piece called 7 Days With. We've got a lovely show called Access called Baby Wears Prada, which might be self-explanatory. It's about toddlers in designer wear. And I believe there's one other that escapes me at the moment. But if you imagine the audience that we're targeting and the kind of tone that those programs have within them, and because, as I've said, ITVB is going to be a very consistent place where we offer a consistently high level of programming for that particular audience, then those are the things you need to be pitching to us. And we've certainly got gaps in the schedule from about the middle of next year onwards, because it's a fledgling channel, so obviously there's more to play for.
And that question, ITV Encore isn't performing well so far. Do you still have high hopes for it?
ITV Encore's performing in line with our expectations.
What were your expectations?
Well, our expectations are pretty much in line with the way that it's performing. I think it's been... I think it's been around only a couple of months. I think that it's beaten Sky Atlantic about 20 times, which is a good kind of peer group comparison, if you like. It's not been around as long as the UK TV drama channel now, which has been around about a year. The original commissioning that there will be on ITV Encore isn't there yet. But no, I think it's got a good foothold in the Sky channel family, and it will grow from where it is now.
And you're commissioning drama then for ITV2, and you're also commissioning new drama for Encore?
Yeah.
How much?
ITV Encore drama hours, well, it's not like the main channel. It'll be sort of, early on it'll be 10, 12 hours a year, rising to maybe 15, 18 hours a year. So it's a relatively small proportion of the whole. But of course, those, as any digital channel with original drama shows, though, if you choose right and get great projects, they have an absolute disproportionate impact. So that's what we're looking at the moment. So we're absolutely in that market. Yeah.
If you've got a good drama and you've commissioned it for Encore, wouldn't you want it actually for ITV1? As drama is such a key part of ITV1.
It's a very fair question. So what you're looking for, I think, is something that has a different flavour and has something that feels right for Encore. But again, I think in all areas of commissioning, it's so important not to be over prescriptive. So if we came up with a blueprint that says this is an Encore commission and this is a main channel commission, you're actually going to end up denying, or you're going to end up not getting the thing, which is the surprising thing that becomes the channel defining thing. You go back again to ITV2 in its early days. I doubt very much, as before Paul or I were involved, I doubt very much whether anybody had come up with a brief for ITV2 drama that itself led to The Secret Diary of a Call Girl. I'm absolutely amazed. You have a broad sense of what might be right, and I think in that case you can clearly see that was something that wouldn't have been right for the main channel, but was absolutely right for ITV2. And then really it's in the hands of writers and producers and production companies, and that's as it ought to be. So ITV Encore, although the hours aren't enormous, is there as a platform, if you like, for somebody who's got a great idea, who may think, well, I don't think this is right for the main channel at ITV, but it might be really good in the particular environment of ITV Encore.
Why do you think ITV Encore will work when pay-per-view didn't?
Well, I think, I don't think the comparison is too precise one. I think that ITV Encore sits alongside, obviously, our main channel and ITV3, which is a drama channel, but it's playing different drama to ITV3. ITV3 is more, if you like, classic detective drama of the kind of Midsummer Murders sort, and ITV Encore is more of is much more based around our newer, more modern drama. And I think like any other market, and the UK TV drama channel, as I say, is about a year old and has made quite an impact. You look at any market, it's like looking at the sort of magazine rack and a newsagent, and you think, blimey, that seems very well served, but no, there's a gap there for something that's a bit different to that one and a bit different to that one. If you get it right, yes, indeed, that gap opens up.
Would you invest in the same way that sort of Netflix has House of Cards, which has been like a defining moment for Netflix? Would you be hoping for Encore that it would have one of those?
Yeah, of course you would. Yes, I'm sure we've got $100 million to spend.
Well, exactly. Well, that's my I mean, that's my point really. It needs an enormous amount of money.
No, but ITV Encore may not be many hours, but they will be full fat drama. Properly budgeted drama. We're not looking for drama done on the cheap for ITV Encore. And although I think you're seeing, in the sort of world of Netflix and similar, enormous statement commissions like that, and I think it's unlikely that we could do that. There is absolutely no reason on earth why a channel like ITV Encore couldn't become defined by a drama commission that, if you like, sort of punches well above its weight and becomes highly regarded and then long running. Nothing to stop that happening at all.
Okay. We've got time for questions, so if we should have microphones running up and down. If you could put your hand up, one here in the front, please, if you could get the microphone too. And just if you could just say who you are and where you're from.
I'm Matt from Broadcast Magazine. Just a quick one about your sort of younger skewing stuff. Would we see sort of more of an interplay with younger skewing content with some of your online platforms, like your new ITV YouTube channels and ITV Player, for example? Perhaps original short form content, for example.
The short answer, I think, is yes. But I think that our first job is to populate these new channels with conventional length programs. I think that the way that the relationship between linear television and YouTube and online generally is developing is that what you just described is one world of short form content over here and one world of linear content over there. In a few years' time, I doubt whether those will be segregated in quite such a rigid way as that. So, yes, of course, we need to follow opportunity in those areas. Yeah.
Is there another question? If you could raise your hand, if there is one. Yes, one just over here. Thank you.
David from Blacklisted Films. I've just started a new indie this last year, Inscripted, and in terms of thinking about where I might take ideas, I'm concerned when I look at ITV in terms of what money is available for development in series. Obviously, kind of BBC and Channel 4 have money to pay. Kind of what can you do in terms of supporting kind of newer entrants in terms of development for scripted?
We pay for development, not that different to Channel 4 and the BBC, so money is available.
Fantastic, thank you.
Money's available, and that's where we'll end. So with that in mind, you know who to pitch to. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and please thank Paul Mortimer and Peter Fincham as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
Well done.